Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this video. The look that I'm wearing is not included in this video because I have yet again forgot to film the intro to a 3 looks 1 palette video. Typical, very typical. Yes, this is the 3 looks 1 palette video using the Sydney Grace and Temptalia Radiant Reflection palette. I give my thoughts on the palette and my thoughts actually in all 3 of the palettes in this collaboration at the end, because I have now done 3 looks with all 3 of the palettes and I really enjoyed this palette. I actually really loved the way all 3 of the looks came out. It really surprised me because I feel like it was the palette that I was kind of the least excited for, perhaps, but it forced me to get creative, and I think they all came out so beautifully and also, again, so different from each other. So there's no need for me to talk anymore. So just let's get into the first look. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back. This is the first look in the 3 looks 1 palette using the Sydney Grace and Temptalia Radiant Reflection palette, which is like this jewel toned rainbow palette almost. Today I'm going to use mostly, if not exclusively, this half of the palette with these rosy tones. I'm so excited. I haven't done a rosy toned look in a long while. I'm running low on memory here, so let's hope that I can do this before my camera runs out of storage. I'm first just going to use a transition shade just to help with blending and stuff, because I do have the deep version of this palette. I'm going to use Looxi Dreamy. It's a matte, basically light rosy shade. I don't know if you can still get this, but I'm just going to quickly run this through my crease and then get into using this palette. Okay, so I just blended that into my crease, and now I'm going to go in with the shade Dearest Constant. And I'm going to take this through my outer corner in my crease. I'm going to do a half cut crease today. This is basically like a burnt orange shade, but I think because most of the other tones that I'm going to use are more like rosy, I went in with a rosier shade just to blend it out, and I think they're going to work. They're going to work well together. I'm pretty sure in the lighter version of this palette, this shade is like more of a lighter rosy matte, and this is like a darker orange. Now I'm going to take the shade Unstoppable Love, which is this dark matte plum shade. Really pretty. And I'm just going to use this to build my crease up. Don't be fooled, because I'm using a like fluffier brush, so it's not quite as dense. So if it doesn't look as pigmented or like it takes more time to build up, that's just the brush. I don't think that's indicative necessarily of the shadow being like more sheer or anything. Okay, so I built those shades up in my crease. I'm just going to quickly do a half cut crease, cut my crease, and then be back to apply shades onto my lid. Okay, so my crease is cut. Now I'm just going to go back into the shade Dearest Constant, the orange, and I'm just going to tap this onto my lid and take a little bit of that and run it over the front part of my crease. And then I'm going to take Unstoppable Love, which was that dark plum, and deepen my outer corner and run this over the edge of my cut crease. Now for my lid, I'm going to take the shade Sumptuous Serendipity, which is this beautiful plummy purple shade with like blue sparkle in it. It's really beautiful. I'm gonna give that a spray and I'm gonna put that on the center of my lid. That is so beautiful. Now I'm going to take the shade Phosphenes, which is this like taupey purple shade. I'm just gonna wipe my brush off, honestly, and take that shade on the other side. And I'm going to spray that as well. And just put this on the front part of my eye. And then now I'm just going to go in with each shade. So some Sumptuous Serendipity and Phosphenes on my brush and just blend them together on my lid. I really love this combo. I think they blend really well together. And then I'm going to take Dearest Constant one more time, so that orange, and just blend it on the transition between Sumptuous Serendipity and the edge of my eye. And then I'm going to take, I think, a little bit more of Unstoppable Love and just blend it through my crease, making sure there's no like weird blending lines or anything, because this shade Sumptuous Serendipity is pretty deep, so I don't want it to be like a weird like uneven blend. I might take a tiny little brush with that Unstoppable Love shade and just stamp this particularly in the front part of my crease, just to like define that shape and keep that depth right here. I'm going to take a little bit more of Dreamy, that transition shade that I use, and just run that lightly over the edges just to bring back that rosy tone. And then I'm just going to take my face highlight and use that as a brow bone highlight. And my face highlight is the Pixi Glowy Gossamer Duo in the shade Delicate Dew. But I'm just going to take this lighter side, just a little. And then lastly, for my top lid, I'm going to take Sumptuous Serendipity and Phosphenes on my fingers and use that to intensify the shadows on my lid. Now for my lower lash line, I'm going to take the shade Operose, which is this cranberry red shade down here. I'm not going to wet it, I'm just going to take it dry, and I'm going to bring that all along my lower lash line and blend it out the way I typically do with mattes. That's really, really beautiful. I have a little bit of fallout, but I think that's to be expected when you put a shimmer all over the lower lash line. And now I'm going to take that same plummy shade Unstoppable Love on a pencil brush and use this to deepen everything up. And then I'm going to, again, take the transition shade that I used and just use this to blend the shade out a little bit more. And then for my final thing that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take the shade Temptalia, which is this really beautiful, I say that about every shade, lilac, almost like pink lilac shade. I'm gonna give, this one spray and then put this on my inner corner. And then to lighten it up a little bit, I'm just gonna take that same face highlight that I used in my brow bone and just run a little bit over the top, as it is a little bit of a deeper shade. So that's really beautiful. I like all the like different tones that are going on here, but they're all in the same color family, so they work together. I'm really happy with this. Okay, so I'm going to just finish up my eyes and put something on my lips and then conclude this look. Okay, you guys, and this is the finished look. I really like it. I love these tones. I think they pair so well together, and I like how there's different variations of like these warmer rosy tones, and I think they're so beautiful. I haven't done like these tones in a while and I'm just so into it. I decided to do a mauve lip because I also haven't done that in a while, and I felt like it might play into like some of the rosier elements of my eyes. Once upon a time this was like my everyday lip color, and now it feels so weird to wear. I'm using the Too Faced Melted Matte Liquid Lipstick in the shade Queen Bee. So expired. It's once upon a time smelled like vanilla. Absolutely does not smell like that anymore, so hopefully I don't poison myself. Do not use your liquid lipsticks or your makeup when it smells bad, okay? Don't do what I do, but I do it anyway. And then I also put a little bit of the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil in Endless Cacao just in the center of my lips, just to give it a little bit of definition, because I felt like this was a little bit light. And then I just used a black in my outer corner, and I used the black shade, the shade Umbra, from the Sydney Grace and Temptalia Quintessence palette. And that's all she wrote. And my lashes are Bold Face Makeup Forget Me Not, because they're one of my favorites and I love them so much. And yeah, I just could stare at this all day. Let's get into the second look. One day I will be able to curl my hair. Today is not that day. My goal is always like Jamie Genevieve, and my reality is like Teresa Giudice from Real Housewives of New Jersey season 1. I mean, it's a look, but it's not necessarily the look I'm going for. Welcome to the second look using the Sydney Grace and Temptalia Radiant Reflection palette. I'm going to do a halo eye, I think, using like this green and this gold, and I'm going to mix this green and this plum. We'll see how that goes. First, I'm going to start off with a transition shade, and it's just lash glue. I thought I dinged this palette. I think I'm actually just going to start with the shade Parallax from the Quintessence palette. Just, you know, keep it in the family. So I'm just going to run this lightly through my crease, just a light layer, keeping a rounded shape. Okay, so I just ran that through my crease. Now I'm going to take the shade Sublime Reverie, which is this like a greeny, almost tealy shade. I'm going to, it's quite pigmented already. I'm going to put this on my inner and outer corner and connect it through my crease. just built that up. That's such a beautiful teal shade. I absolutely love that. Now I'm going to take the shade Unstoppable Love and I'm going to build that up in my crease. I know it's like a plummy shade and I imagine that it's probably going to get a little bit muddy. I'm not even necessarily going to be mad at that because I kind of want to like grunge this look up a little bit. So if it gets a little bit muddy, I don't mind. But I think blending a like almost purpley based brown into like a green is probably just going to end up with a pretty muddy shade. But I'm just letting you know that I know this going in. I'm literally like so obsessed with how that looks. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly cut my crease in the center and then be back to finish up this eye. Okay, so I've cut my crease quickly. Before I do anything on my lid, I'm just gonna blend a little bit. So I'm gonna take Sublime Reverie, which was that greeny teal, and I'm going to put this, just tap it onto my lid for a little bit of a transition. And I'm going to take a tiny touch of that. This brush is a little bit big, but I'm just going to run it over the middle part of my crease. And then I'm going to take Unstoppable Love and just deepen my inner and outer corner as well. And then I'm going to take a tiny little brush and use this to stamp along the edge. Lovely. Okay. So now I'm going to take Jealousy's Descent, which is this beautiful green. I'm going to give that a spray. I'm going to put this in this, actually not in the center, well in the center of my lid obviously, but on the edges of this halo eye here. And then I'm gonna wipe that brush off. On the other side, oops. On the other side, I'm gonna take Exquisite Opulence, which is this gold. Spraying that as well and putting this in the center. And then I'm just going to go back and forth between each of the shades and blend them together as best as I can. And then I'm going to take each shade, so Exquisite Opulence, which is the gold, and Jealousy's Descent, which is the green, and just use my fingers to intensify each of those shades on my lid, being as careful as I can. And then I'm just going to take a little bit more of Sublime Reverie, just like this, a very small amount, like barely picking anything up, and just blending that into the Jealousy's Descent shade, just so that there's like a nice gradient between everything. And then I'm just quickly going to take Parallax one more time, which I used just as like kind of a transition shade, and just take a tiny bit and run this just over the edge of everything just to help blend it a little bit more. For my lower lash line, I got a lot going on, so I'm just going to keep it, again, relatively simple. So I'm going to take Sublime Reverie and just run this all along my lower lash line. And then I'm going to take Unstoppable Love and use that to deepen it up. And I'm going to just take Parallax and just blend the edges of my shadow as well. And then I'm going to take Exquisite Opulence with my pinky and just put this on my lower lash line right in the center. And then for my inner corner and my brow bone, I'm just going to take my face highlight, which is from the Beauty Bakerie Milk and Honey palette. I'm using the shade Spoiler Alert, which is just the champagne shade. So then I'm just going to take a tiny little bit and put that on my brow bone and my inner corner. And also I'm going to take a black. I'm just taking the shade Umbra from the Quintessence palette. And I'm going to just use this to deepen a little bit my outer corners as well as my inner corners. Okay, and this is the finished look. I really love it. It's super bold and colorful, and I am a large fan. So the only thing that I did was I just put a lip on. So I used the Kat Von D, or I guess KVD Vegan Beauty Now Everlasting Liquid Lipstick in the shade Bow and Arrow. Again, super expired. I think this lipstick and the lipstick that I used in my last look are like my two oldest liquid lipsticks. This one, oh, that smells not good. This color though is super nice. I absolutely love it. I don't know when the cutoff for me would be to stop using these lipsticks because I'm still using them. Maybe I should do like a project pan or something with them. Ooh. Anyway, and then I just put some random lashes on. I don't know the brand and I don't know anything about them. But they're just like big fluffy lashes and they're poking me in the eyeball. Anyway, I also have a really strong bridge of the nose highlight going on, but it's fine, it's fine. Yeah, so let's get on to the third look. Okay, hello, welcome to the third look using the Sydney Grace and Temptalia on the Radiant Reflection. I always forget the name of this stupid thing. Radiant Reflection palette, third look. So I'm going to do a similar look to what I did in my last video using the Radiant Reflection. No, using the On the Horizon. So I'm going to do a similar look as to what I did in my last look in the On the Horizon palette. I really want to use all of these blues. I think they're so beautiful. And I really liked the way that that all shimmer looked. So I kind of want to do something similar. Today, I'm going to start with the shade Unstoppable Love because it's the deepest shade in this palette. And I'm going to take a little pencil brush and just stamp this and map the shape that I want to follow using this shadow. Okay, so even-ish, you know, even as I'm gonna get them realistically, I'm going to take just a like bronzer again. I'm just gonna use my Fenty Beauty bronzer in the shade Into Sun on a little tiny like blending brush, and I'm just gonna use that to just slightly blend the edges of this shape that I created. I don't want it to be like super blended, but I just want it to be like a little bit more blended. Okay, so Now I'm going to take the shade Forget Her Not, which is this really beautiful dark blue. I'm gonna spray that, and then I'm going to put this on the outer third of my eye, following the shape that I have mapped out. Now I'm going to take the shade Our Starry Night, which is this dark, or not, it's like this mid-toned, really sparkly blue. I'm going to take that on a brush and spray it as well and put this in the center of the lid. And then lastly, I'm going to take the shade Gloss Over, which is this brighter blue, and I'm going to put this in the inner third of my lid, on the inner third of my lid. Okay, and so those are all the shimmers. I'm just going to take a little bit of time and blend each shade into each other. It shouldn't be too difficult considering they're all like, whoa, different gradations of blue. And then I'm going to take that same little pencil brush, maybe grab a little bit more of Unstoppable Love, and I'm just going to blend the edges out a little bit. And then maybe take a little bit more of my bronzer and just go over the edge. I don't want to touch any of the shimmers with this. I just want to like blend the edges a little bit more. I kind of like how defined this is. It's not quite as high as I usually bring stuff up, but I don't mind it. I'm going now to do my lower lash line just to kind of bring everything together. First, I'm going to take the shade Forget Her Not, which is that dark blue in my outer corner, and I'm just going to press this all along my lower lash line and blend it out as I typically do with like my matte shades. Okay, so now I'm going to take a matte black. Again, I'm just going to use Umbra from the Quintessence palette from Sydney Grace and Temptalia, and I'm going to use this to deepen my lower lash line. And then just to blend everything out, I'm going to take my bronzer and just buff that along my lower lash line just to blend it into my skin a little bit more. Then I'm going to use my fingers to intensify these blue shades on my lid. And then I'm going to bring the Gloss Over shade, so that lighter blue that's in the inner part of my eye. And I'm going to just take this and wrap this around my inner corner. And then I'm going to take my face highlight, which is ColourPop Flexitarian. And I'm just going to put this over the top just to give it a little bit more brightness. And also take a tiny touch of this on my brow bone. Okay, you guys, and this is the finished look. I really love it. I love how striking it is, and I think the gradation of these blues is just absolutely beautiful. So on my lips, I used the NYX Lingerie liquid lipstick in the shade Honeymoon, I believe. Yes, Honeymoon. I haven't used this in so long. Look at me using my liquid lipsticks in this video. I've been going through like a regular bullet lipstick phase, so I'm shopping my stash. And then I just have random Amazon lashes on. So that's that on that. Overall, my thoughts on this specific palette, I do really love it. I think it's a pretty color story, like really jewel toned and really beautiful. And I also can see myself getting just as much use out of this as I can with all three of them. And my thoughts are basically the same. This quality-wise, honestly, actually might be my favorite. I think all the metallics performed beautifully. All the mattes blended beautifully. I had like honestly no issues with this whatsoever. My thoughts on all of these three as a whole, because I have now done 3 looks with each of these palettes, 4 with the quintessence actually. I really love this collection. This to me was like hyped when it launched, and I felt like everyone was talking about it, and then it very quickly like fell off. I feel like now I don't really hear many people talk about these, and it was like all at once and nothing more than I feel like a lot of other things, which I'm not really sure why that is. I heard someone say that like people only talk about Sydney Grace around their Christmas and July sale, which I think is interesting, but I still really enjoy these palettes, and I actually think that they're really solid palettes across the board, especially if you're in the States and you don't have to pay for shipping, or like as high a rate for shipping as in other countries. But I thoroughly have enjoyed my experience using all 3 of these, and I think they're like $40, right? Ish USD. I could be wrong. So I think that's not really that bad. And I think the Quintessence palette, which is the first one, is definitely the most colorful. You have a lot of blues and a lot of greens, but I think all 3 of these palettes balance really well with colorful shades and neutral shades. I think you can get a good mix of neutral and colorful looks out of all 3 of them. They're definitely similar shades across all 3 palettes, but I think you can get unique looks from all 3 palettes. So I don't necessarily know that they're all gonna look exactly the same, but I feel like the shades are similar enough that you can pretty easily, in my opinion at least, if you don't want to buy all 3, pick which color story appeals to you, and you can have similar vibes, but I think you are going to have individually similar shadows across all 3 palettes. For me, that doesn't really bother me at all. But I'm also not someone who like cares if I have similar shades necessarily. I'm not trying to have like only one shade of, in my collection. I'm not necessarily a makeup minimalist, and that doesn't bother me truly that much at all. And I feel like at the same time though, they are unique enough in their own individual color stories that they feel like different palettes to me. They give me different vibes, and I don't feel like I have 3 of the same palettes. And I think all 3 of the looks that I've done with each palette have been like unique and true to each palette's color story. And there's something about these palettes that has really inspired me. I think because they have less mattes than shimmers, they don't have like necessarily my typically preferred like matte to shimmer ratio, so I've gotten creative with them. I've gotten creative with placement. I've gotten creative with shape and color matching, and I think these lend well to more complex looks, but also I feel truly like the way these palettes will shine most is just like very simple looks. I love the tones of these shades, so even doing like a matte in the crease and then a shimmer all over the lid, I think all the shimmers are super impactful, really beautiful in tone as well, and I really love these. And even just like fanning them out and looking at them, I love like the packaging of the palettes. Even though like for me, taxes, duties, shipping duties, and the price of these was a little bit of a more expensive purchase, but I really have thoroughly enjoyed my experience using all three of these palettes, and I'm really looking forward to playing with them more. Quality wise, because I know everyone raves about Sydney Grace's quality so much, I like them. The mattes, really, I had truly an amazing time using them. They were pigmented, they didn't get patchy, they built, they layered well, they blended out super well. Like, truly great mattes in my opinion. Like, I love them. Also, they do remind me of Pat McGrath mattes in the way that they perform. The metallics were pretty, and I liked them. I liked the tones of them. They're not like necessarily my favorite metallic formula. I like something in general, maybe a little bit more sparkly and a little bit more textured, but these are like very nice, good metallics, They didn't like blow me completely out of the water. They're not as special to me as like Kaleidos metallics, for example. But they are good. And yeah, I don't know, that's what I have to say. Those are like the culmination of my thoughts after using all three of these palettes for a good amount of time. And yeah, I really have enjoyed making these videos. And don't like, here I am making videos because these palettes are still good and they didn't release that long ago. When did they come out? In June or July? So it hasn't been that long, and they're not limited edition, I'm pretty sure. Like, you can still get them depending on like stocking and stuff. So don't forget about them. They're still really good quality, beautiful palettes that launched this year, okay? Like, they're still here, they're still around, and hopefully this series that I've been doing has reminded you of that, and it's been enjoyable to watch. All right, thank you so much for watching, you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.